if you live inside Iran or not. The same way that Iranians can go and actually vote for presidential, whether they're inside Iran or not, they can have an opinion. Majority of Iranians who are outside Iran, they had to run from the IRGC at some point in their life. So they actually absolutely have the right to have an opinion. Every single Iranian has a single vote. And if you don't want to be involved, then please, I beg you, and I beg you on behalf of every Iranian who's anti-regime and they want them to go, please just sit quietly back, because you always have a lot of opinion, but then you always also say, oh, I'm not going to make decisions. That's all I just wanted to say. And I hope you don't take it in the wrong way. I'm not trying to label you. I'm saying it as a friend.
Okay, so I'm going to start by saying there's two types of people: glass half full and glass half empty. Your perception is your reality, so I can't change the minds of anyone who wants to take what I said and hear how they wanted to hear it. I said what I said very, very clearly. Okay, so I'm not going to go back and forth about, trying to debate or defend my statements. I was very, very explicit with how I said it, how I framed it. So there's always going to be a group of people who just don't want to hear what somebody's saying for what it is.
Rohan, I'm going to hand the room over to you since you're the administrator for this house. Great conversation, guys. I'll be back.
See you back here soon, JB. Sarah, look, I just want to say thanks for making the comment, also asking the question so politely as well. I think we were pointing out before that, like, Miriam's going to have, she has her scope of the situation that she is going to be able to talk about. She's got a narrative based on her own personal experience and also the history that she has not just witnessed for herself but also has read about as well. And I think, look, within this, there's a healthy conversation and, for that matter, a healthy debate to be able to have. I'd like to know if there's anybody else who's got like some questions or some pushback, or maybe on what Miriam had to was saying. Then please, feel free to be able to just chime in. Let's go.
Sano, go ahead, Sano.
Yeah, I don't know this lady. I don't know Mariam. But I think, if I understood correctly, she's the daughter of Ebrahim Yazdi. Well, Ebrahim Yazdi was not a very good actor. Even after revolution. Granddaughter. Well, Ebrahim Yazdi, he was not a very good actor. He was not a very good actor, good figure in the history of Iran. Well, he fought for the Islamic revolution. He was pro-Islamic revolution, but he also became a victim of Islamic revolution. So among all the hundreds of thousands of the victims of Islamic revolution, Ebrahim Yazdi is one of the people who I feel sorry for the least, because he was one of the culprits who brought this pestilence to our country. And so just my question is, so Mariam, if I understand correctly, you oppose regime change in Iran right now. So is it because Israel is involved? Is it because of your hatred for Israel that you are opposed to it? Or is it because Pahlavi is involved? For which of these two reasons is that you are against? Is it because of your hatred for Israel or your hatred for Pahlavi? Judging from the views of your grandfather, because I don't know your own view.
That's really interesting. I don't know where you got the idea that Mariam is anti-Israel, or even for that matter pro-IRGC, but Miriam, if you'd like to be able to respond to that, it's entirely up to you.
I think you, as
opposing regime change right now is pro-IRGC.
Supports Israel.
Wait,
cleared it up.
Pause for 1 second, okay. Just for what it's worth, A, we've got a one mic policy. B, if a moderator is talking, that's not an indication to be able to open mic and just talk over them. It's not a good idea. We're not going to accept that. Sorry, Miriam, as you were saying?
I was just saying that as a Jewish man who supports Israel, I think it's fascinating from the outside in this current climate of trying to label people a certain way to, and said it actually when you played my statement in the space. I think it was the question was cleverly worded, but I think you responded to it well, Ro. So I'm just going to leave your statement, if you want to repeat it again, out there for people to really understand the perception of what I said, how you took what I said, listening very carefully, how you said as a Jewish man who supports Israel, and what somebody like Sano is trying to paint what I said.
Sana, I don't know how you came to the conclusion that Miriam is anti-Israel and pro-IRGC. Is it possible you've misheard something?
No, I'm just asking. I'm not saying she's anti-Israel. I'm just asking, why would she be against regime change? After a historical opportunity we have, we don't have the luxury of choosing exactly how to carry out regime change. And if this attempt fails, then there will be massive massacres. There will be tens of Havarans. If you are Iranian, you know what is Havaran. What is the mass murder of political prisoners in the 80s. There will be tenfold of that awaiting us if this regime change attempt fails. So why would anyone be against regime change now? Just because it is not exactly the way I dreamt it to be?
Well, I mean, maybe a way of putting it would be, Miriam, do you think that under the current circumstances, if there was a regime change, could it actually be any worse than what it currently is?
Hey, Miriam, in the midst of you answering that question,
Anthony, I just want to see if...
Ro, I would actually like to also hear what Anthony wants to kind of say too, so I can answer it all together, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, okay, that's...
Excellent. So Miriam, I just want to be clear, right? Do you think it's a fair stance for someone to feel if you're anti-regime change, that makes Miriam pro, IRGC? Do you think that's a fair statement?
If Miriam actually explicitly says she's against regime change, I'm sure that there's somebody out there that could take that and make 2 + 2 = 4 in that context. But I'd like anyone here, I charge anyone, to tell me where in any of my statement or anything else that I've said, assert that I am anti-regime change. Please. And Rose heard the video, Ro played the video. Ro, did I say anything anywhere that I'm anti-regime change at all?
No, you
explicitly
certainly...
Or even imply it in the slightest?
No, there was no implication whatsoever. It was an assumption that was being made and an assertion that came as a result of that, and much the same as the assertion that you're anti-Israel, which I've known you on here for I don't know how long, but I've never heard you be anti-Israel once.
So to be clear, Miriam, I haven't heard you say anything that indicates that you're anti-regime change. I was just asking the question as a concept. It's not based on something you said. Multiple people have asserted that you're anti-regime change. I haven't heard you state that.
I would like to say something. Is it okay? So from what I hear so far, this is more about ancient people, Kurd. They are divided now in Turkey, Iraq, Syria, and Iran, right? Most of them are in Turkey. What I hear from Miriam is there's a lot of complexity. The history timeline is very important. And she just hoped that in this discussion of how the regime change will take place, that people do not totally ignore. There is this, 8 million Kurds in Iran, but she hoped for the bigger picture. What would the world want to do with people Kurds? There are distributed around 14 million in Turkey, 8 in Iran, and some in Iraq, and some a little in Syria. I think that's what I hear from her. And I rather hear things like that, which is based on truth, than having many Israeli people wasting time on daily basis, debating futilely with people like Aziz, or people who just come and waste the time of the Israeli people. We hope for IRGC to go away. And the question is, in this very sensitive, uncertain time, should we hear about, the future of Kurd, right? But if this is presented as a truth, and if there is no misleading, everything is clear that she's not representing Kurd who's and thinking about anti-Israel. I don't hear that, and I also don't hear that about anti-regime change. She just hope that there is this truth in history. What would happen to these people when there's an anti-regime change? When there's a regime change, and also the other point, what she say is, who is going to lead the regime change? She believe, maybe it's not her or somebody else. It's the Kurd people who's going to lead the regime change. They are willing to sacrifice their life. Again, I could be wrong, but she's not anti-regime change. She just hope in this very historical moment in Iran, people don't forget there is an 8% Kurd death. That's my point of view.
Mariam, did you want to follow up with that?
Sorry for interrupting. Well, sorry,
Let me
Mariam.
clarify,
Look,
Sarah.
there is a-
Sarah, hang on. Let me clarify.
No, there's a guy in the chat who's like making very, very nasty comments. Maybe somebody wants to.
It's okay. I see it, but I think it's also important to see that it exists there, Sarah John. Okay, because that is also telling. Again, we're talking about complexities of all of this. There are people out there who make the statement "nuke Iran," right? I mean, they even create a count about it. We can disavow it. We can get upset about it, but we can't ignore that it exists. In my humble opinion, to answer Dave, I think I understand where you're coming from with the whole reliance on the Kurd part and bringing that. I didn't say definitively that it's Kurds. I said in response to Ro, when he asked me about this, I said that the complexity of it does cause a concern for me looking at it from the outside based off of 120 years. So when you have a population of Iranians globally, 80 plus million inside, and you have so many different factions and people that subscribe to a different type of political affiliation or ideology, it begs the question, where's the utopia? Where's that utopian leader or group of leaders? If you really want my opinion, I think that the leaders of Iran are in those jails. I think that the dissidents and the political activists that have given their blood, sweat, and tears and have stayed in the country and have fought against the government, those people, to me, in my humble opinion, are the ones that are truly the ones that can navigate all of this, because even sociologically or psychologically, they've earned the respects of their compatriots inside of Iran enough because they see them that have stayed there. Whether we on the outside have different judgments and opinions about them, and we want to go down conspiracy rabbit holes or affix a label to them, regardless of what we think on the outside, the people inside of Iran, they recognize who's in prison right now. So that's where I'll land on that part, Dave. And that's what I was trying to explain, is there's a complexity there of all the different.
Let me chime in here with a quick question. I think the commentary in the chat, and you referenced it, Mariam, begs a provocative question. And I'd like for you, if you could, to answer it directly. The question is this: do you think that Iran should have nuclear weapons? And if so, or if not, why or why not?
That's a great question, TC. That was actually a question we were talking about yesterday, and I've been on different panels talking about this. On principle, I think every sovereign nation has a right to do that. The issue about Iran having nuclear capabilities started actually in the late 1960s and 1970. So during that time, there was Project Flower. You had the Shah of Iran back then, the late Shah, asking the United States for the ability to develop a nuclear program. The question right now is, do we trust this regime enough to have a nuclear program? My question to that is, what type of government would anyone trust to have a nuclear program? And the foundational principled question is, does every sovereign nation have the right to do it, right? Have the right to have it? And so if you look back at the history of Iran, it's not exclusive to 46 years, this question about nuclear programs, nuclear reactors. The Shah of Iran had a program to have 22 or 23 nuclear sites. Before Ford was Nixon. Nixon said, okay, let's work on an agreement. Let's talk to each other about this. So they had that. Then you had the Guadalupe conference that happened. In the middle of that, you had Ford come in. So the complexity and the accuracy of the chronological timeline of all this lends itself to the question of when will the West or anyone in general be satisfied, and what regime will be satisfied for something like this to happen? So on principle alone, yes, I believe that Iran has the right to have the same things that Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Israel, America, every other country has. I would be a liar if I said that I didn't agree on that. So I'll leave it there.
So, if I could just follow up on that, real quick, and then I'll hand it right back off to you.
Yeah, sure. I think I know where you're going to go with it.
Yeah, I don't, and don't take this the wrong way, Miriam, but I asked you to answer the question directly because I wanted to evoke a response to the question that's guided the conversation, which is, what is the utility of a nuclear-armed Iran? We're not talking about nuclear energy. I'm talking about a nuclear bomb. And so the question was, in your opinion, should this current regime have a nuclear bomb? And if so, why? And I think you gave a principled response, which I respect, and I can respect that response, because if everybody else is entitled to it, then why shouldn't Iran be entitled to it? That's fair. But considering the implications of this current regime armed with a nuclear weapon, I guess agnostic to any type of principled or just principled stance on the issue of fairness and equity for countries having access to weapons that other countries have, why would it be advantageous for this regime of Iran to have a nuclear bomb? If you want to answer that, you can. If not, no worries. But
no, I'll answer it. Yeah, I'll answer it, but I'm not going to be direct the way that you want, okay, TC? Because I think it requires a little bit of background. Yeah. So I'm gonna speak as an American citizen here. My statement before was as an American citizen, and also pride in my heritage and the fact that Iran does deserve this. And this has been a question since I said from the late 1960s and 1970. There's been a lot of talk about JCPOA, right? So when the U.S. backed out of JCPOA, although Iran was still in a nuclear agreement with the E3 nations, France, Germany, UK, there were some agreements there. It got out of hand. So Iran went from 3.67 to 60%. That's a big jump. Okay, I think we can all agree that shouldn't have happened, and I think the regime was stupid for allowing that to happen. So I don't agree on that. I don't think they should have done that. Then you've got the IAEA. They say that, there's conflicting statements. In one breath, you've got, it's going to happen within the next 3 weeks, three months, etc. But then you've got the definitive statement from the IAEA saying that Iran is not building a bomb and is likely not to in the next 3 years away, even if it wanted to. Okay, so even if it chose the path to develop a nuclear bomb, it hasn't indicated so, but what they have right now could if they wanted to, right? So that's a question, that's an issue. But right now, in terms of policy and the U.S. position on this and what we're doing here in the U.S. domestically, the question is, it's at least 3 years away. We've had so many conflicting reports from, you've got, the Director General Grossi, he came out and said something, and then he had to walk that back. I think 2 days ago, he was on the TV doing an interview, walking back what he said. There's so many layers to all of this. So given this current regime, the way that they have behaved, I think it's fair for any Western country to say, hey, hold on a second here. What are you doing? Why do you need 60%? So I think that's a fair question to ask. And as from this position, from a policy position, looking at that, I would also say, why are you guys enriching this much? I agree with the sentiment that we should be concerned with what they're doing with that. So I'm not disavowing any Western perspective on our opinion of Iran's ability to have it with this regime and the statements that they've made. And I'm not talking about domestic. I'm talking about, when it comes to like their foreign relation policies.
In a nutshell, given the current regime, would you feel comfortable as a person who's living in Israel for them to be able to have developed nuclear capabilities further than what they have?
That's a good question, Ro. Given the asinine statements from our former president Ahmadinejad and some of the rhetoric around there that's really escalated the whole Iran versus Israel thing. No, I can see why Israel would not feel comfortable. I could see that. I respect the position of Israel saying, hey, we're not comfortable with Iran having this because, ever since Ahmadinejad opened his stupid mouth, this is what he said.
I want to get in here.
Hang on, sorry, but that was answering the question, but not the question that I was asking. Would you feel comfortable?
She's good at that, Ro. She's good
as
at
a person, hang on for a second. Would you, as an Israeli, feel comfortable with Iran or IRGC developing greater strengths of uranium?
No. If I was an Israeli, I would not feel comfortable if I was in Israel.
Yeah. Okay. You understand that obviously Israel's need to be able to take matters into their own hands, and given the threat that the IRGC has made and the Ayatollah has made towards Israel, and it's not just this particular one, and it's not just in the last week or the last couple of months, but this has been something that's happened over decades, as you're well aware. There's been a constant threat to Israel coming from Iran, not just directly, through its proxies as well, through the funding of Hamas, through the funding of Hezbollah, through the PIJ, through Houthis, which are also causing major problems within the water boundaries for shipping and so forth, which is causing problems for the rest of the world. We're also aware that the funding the Houthis, where you have 2 million people lining in the streets calling for the death of not just Israel, but calling for the death of America. It sort of surprises me that I'm not hearing a direct.
Can I tell you why?
I'm not hearing a direct sort of an emphatic answer that leans in the direction of saying absolutely not. Actually, this regime is a fucking danger to the rest of the world. In fact, it's a cancer. And is a threat to not just the Middle East, but also the world peace.
Sir, I'm going to tell you why, Ron, and it's really simple. For me, statements like that and words like that matter, right? There's value that we assign to it, and that value that we assign to it goes into a formula that then turns into an action, right? So let's talk about threats, and let's talk about relationships and who hates who, and I'm saying who in terms of a nation, right? There's another country out there, Pakistan, who actually has the atomic capabilities to do something. And if we look at the history of Pakistan and Israel, Pakistan, you could say, and I'm using air quotes here, hates Israel just as much, right? What I don't see, and this is where I'm trying to reconcile this narrative, and maybe we can have an honest conversation about this so that I can get to the point where you guys are and I can be on that same level. But for me, pragmatically speaking, and words matter to me, what I don't see is the consistency of that message in terms of threat and fear. So we have a country, Pakistan, that literally today has an atomic bomb, to the point where in the last 3 days or 4 days or 5 days, right? Let's just say in the last week, you've heard statements from Pakistan. They've walked back those statements. They said it again the next day, where they are willing and able to support and lean in and drop a nuke on Israel if this continues, right? But I don't see the same rhetoric from Israel against Pakistan, who has the capability and has made that claim, and since at least 1948 has been anti-Israel. So if
That's not
somebody
gonna be
could
why-
help enlighten and share that perspective of it, for me to align the two principles,
Can someone else
that would
speak?
be
Yeah,
Aside from Mariam, with all due respect.
Pakistan has not
hang on
funded
for
the
a second?
Texas.
Why are people just jumping in? Just hang on for a second. Yakov, I've got you. Just let Miriam finish what she was saying. I also want to be able to point out that, the Ayatollah is the person, or the IRGC has been very open and verbose in terms of its desire and its intention, and its actions through its proxies in the wanton destruction of Israel. Pakistan, albeit, has like an incredible arsenal of nuclear capabilities and weapons, has not done that. So they haven't openly been a threat, and they haven't threatened Israel per se. They're not peaceful. We understand that, but they're not warring in their words. Sorry, Marion, I'll pass it back to you, and then I'll go to you.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I can see that perspective, but I also disagree. I think Pakistan has come out on several occasions and made claims against Israel. So, I mean, we can both maybe go and Google it and find those talking points and that history there. But I think that it's important to note when we're talking about it and we're framing it the way that we are, the inconsistencies and the discrepancies is where it lends itself to why now, what's at stake, are we missing the forest from the trees? And that's the position that I'm taking from it. It has nothing to do with my personal beliefs and my alliances or my allegiances to any one side. And it's just from a pragmatic perspective here, when I look at the implications of it domestically in terms of the U.S., right? I said in the beginning of this, I'm putting my U.S. hat on this. For me as a voter, as a taxpayer, I look at this and I do question the inconsistency in terms of principle when it comes to saying that this is a threat.
Bro, can I get in the queue? So, AJ down here.
AJ, absolutely. Thank you so much. AJ, I'm really glad you came up here. I was trying to get you up here a little bit earlier. I'm going to pass the mic over to Yakov, who is, I think you wanting to ask a question.
You made my point that Iran is actively funding Hezbollah, which has been firing 10,000 missiles from October 7th beyond into Israel, and prior to that, many thousands of missiles. The Houthis with their ballistic missiles and Hamas. So it's just not a fair comparison, I think. There may be rhetoric from Pakistan, but there isn't active funding to topple the government of Israel.
You mean apples aren't
And
the same
destroy
as
the
oranges?
country of
Thanks, appreciate it. AJ, how you doing? Nice to see you.
Great, thanks. Thanks for having me. It's always difficult to ascertain folks' motivations and where they're coming from, and all I can do is assess the words that are being said. And I have to say, this issue hits close to home for me, and I don't want to say Mariam is for IRGC, but Mariam, all of your comments happen to conveniently align with IRGC interests. You might say you're not anti-regime change, but that you're very careful in your wording not to say that you would support it, and you spend all of your time on this app talking about the dangers of toppling this theocratic, oppressive regime. And then when the topic of nukes come up, you draw false equivalences, and you very cleverly kind of open the door to people being more open-minded about the mullahs having a nuke. The program is so peaceful. The Iranian nuclear program is so peaceful that they buried one of their nuclear sites 100 well below a cave, and even though that they were bound by an IAEA agreement in 2003, they only revealed that they had the Fordo site in 2009 after it was discovered by Western intelligence. Iran is actively funding proxies, the Houthis, the Hezbollah. They had a hand in October 7. They celebrate Death to Israel and Death to America Day. And the reason and even if you had some argument that they were equivalent to Pakistan, that's still, your argument falls apart, because if there's an opportunity to prevent another one of these countries from acquiring a nuke, it doesn't mean you allow it because another country already has it. That argument doesn't make any sense. So all I'm saying is it's just tough to be in this room and see. I'm glad that Mariam's take is here, that her perspective is here, but I do feel like her voice is being elevated as if she's made a mod in this room. She's getting way more speaking time in this room, and I'm sorry you're not speaking for a lot of us. And it would be great to get alternative perspectives here. The Iranian regime has oppressed the Iranian people for 40 years. People are desperate to get out from under their thumb. Do we know what's going to come next? No, these issues are really complicated, and hopefully something worse won't come. But every one of your comments is aligning with fear-mongering around change and making people more flexible with the thought of the regime having a nuke. And it's just tough to stomach it sometimes. But, I'm glad your view is here, but we need other voices on.
Well, AJ, you got the green bean, so you have a voice. Everybody on the stage has a voice. Everybody. We don't have to necessarily agree, but let's have the respectful conversation. Back to you, Rohan.
Come back. Point absolutely clear and also taken. Some of the best conversations that I've been witness to and also been part of have been ones where there have been differences of opinion. It's perfectly fine, but they've been done respectfully, and the points that have been made are actually really salient. Easy for people to be able to understand. I think it's a beautiful challenge, but also a beautiful thing where you can agree to disagree, instead of having a shit show and having shit flying everywhere.
Well, Ryan, let me just say this. I had this room open since 7:30 this morning my time, and I'm glad Marian's here. She's for me, she's given a different perspective than what I've heard most of the day. So like I said, I'm no scholar on Iran or the people there, but you're right. This is healthy debate. Let's have different views in a respectful manner. But I have to be honest, Rohan, I didn't know what Mariam was going to say, so it kind of took me back because I've been hearing the opposite all morning. But I'm going to hand it back to you to run the.
Can I say something real quick?
Please, Mariam, jump in, lady.
Look, I appreciate that my take, and I'm going to open parentheses and add this little footnote here. My take, even on domestic U.S. related things, also rubs some people wrong. So regardless of whether it's Iran, Israel, foreign relations, geopolitics, Saudi Arabia, that's just me. And that's not me whitewashing myself or defending myself to justify my actions. I'm just saying that there's always different perspectives that people have. And so, AJ, I appreciate everything that you said. I respect you. I have an immense respect for you. You and I have been, friends on Clubhouse and exchanged ideas and thoughts on a lot of different topics. And so I appreciate where you're coming from, and I appreciate the constructive criticism in terms of the perception of what I'm saying. But because of the respect that I have for you, I was hoping that of all people, you would be one of those people who would discern what I'm saying, understand it from a different pragmatic point of view. But I also appreciate the emotions and the background and the history in it. So, I'm hoping that we can get beyond the emotions and the PTSD that we've both experienced, because I've experienced it as well. And that we can move beyond that and look at that at a higher level and try to understand and unpack with the words that are being used versus some ulterior motive behind it.
I appreciate that, Mariam, but where I struggle sometimes is in several instances you've been asked really direct questions about some of these issues, and I don't know if you're doing it on purpose, but the way that you kind of dodge it sometimes, it's sometimes concerning. Like I know these issues are really complex, but if all you're doing is saying, hey, regime change is dangerous, and hey, look at this other country that has nukes. There's hypocrisy. It all starts to line up in one direction. I'm not hearing nuance from you. I'm hearing you go kind of one direction, and then when you're asked about the other direction, you kind of dodge it.
So let me make it simple.
You have to appreciate
Yeah.
like how that sounds to me. It's like kind of hard to hear.
Let's get away from this conversation of nuclear. Okay, so we're Iranian to Iranian talking, and I'd like to hear from the other Iranians if we can, Ro. Let's just take it away from this right now, because I think what Ro is playing from my statement and how I opened when he came to me in this room, I think that's missed here. So let's get away from this talk. Let's get down to Iranians and Iranians. I don't know whose mic is
I would like
open,
to
but
go next, if possible. I would like
Dave,
to go
please.
next.
Yeah, Dave, please. 1 second here, Dave. So we've heard from Dave. Actually, I'm sorry, Dave. I'm going to use you as an example. So let's say that if I support Iran, I support the civilians inside of Iran, right? As diverse, ethnically diverse, politically diverse, emotionally diverse, educatedly diverse, right? So let's say, and this has happened actually, AJ, let's say that I also support giving space for Kurds and Baluchis to talk about what they feel living in Iran and what they want to see for Iran, right? I guarantee you the immediate label and assumption is going to be made that I am now supporting a separatist movement, right? I'm using this as an example because at the end of the day, before we start talking about regime change, and this goes back to Rose's second question to me about what are my concerns, what do I see about the day after, about tomorrow? And I very explicitly said this, so I'd like to have an intellectually honest conversation about this. Knowing, and every Iranian in here right now knows, the complexity and the diversity of the total population of Iranians. Knowing that, I would like one person to tell me how they envision this to play out when times have changed. Social media has created platforms for people to get together more in solidarity in their silos, in their groups. So I'd like to know, in that scenario, how do we see it's going to play out? When you've got somebody like Dave here who has
Okay, I'd like to
changed
answer.
words that I said. No, not you. I asked AJ for a minute. Hold on. I would
I'd like to
know
answer your
this.
question. You keep repeating
Are you
yourself.
are
I'd
you
like to answer.
Iranian? Are you Iranian? No,
No,
you're not.
but I don't believe you
Okay.
have to be. I
So-
didn't know you
no,
had
no,
to be
because-
Iranian. I won't speak to you.
Randy, hang on, please.
Hang on for a second,
I
Randy.
mean, because you're making a big speech just to make one little question. You keep
No, this is an
repeating it.
important
We get it.
point.
You want to know what
No.
happens after.
Randy,
Okay?
hang on, please.
Are you familiar with
Randy,
the
hang
former
on.
Yugoslavia?
Randy, hang on.
Randy.
Okay, so he can't hang on. I'm sorry, Ro. I helped him hang
Yeah.
on. I helped him. So AJ, I would like to know, as we're having this conversation among friends who are not Iranian, and we're trying to have an honest conversation about this, I'd like to know how we're supposed to reconcile that with the diversity that we have.
Yeah, I'll be really quick, and I got to get in an elevator here, and would love to give other people a chance to speak here. Look, I don't have the answers. This is really complex. I'm actually one of the few people on this app who's capable of saying the words "I don't know." I know it's a really uncomfortable phrase for people to say. It's very complicated. Who knows what'll come after? Hopefully, it won't be something worse. All I'm saying, Marianne, is that if your only message about this opportunity to topple this sick theocratic regime is just instilling fear about removing them, and you're not saying anything else, that's concerning. I agree with you that it's scary about what will come in next. But what's different between what you and I are saying is I also talk about the great things that could come from toppling a regime like this, whereas from you, all I hear is the fear.
And I'll
I'll let
just
some
quickly
others
say,
speak.
All right,
Yeah,
let me jump in for a second.
Can
Mary.
someone else
Just-
talk?
Yeah, Randy, relax. I'm coming to you right now, bro. I got you. That's what I was gonna say. Listen, let's show some grace and some space for Miriam, please. But Randy, attack the point, not the person, please. Go ahead.
I never attacked the person.
I was making a point. Yugoslavia was a country. Now it's several different countries. And the same thing could happen to Iran. We've heard about a huge Kurdish ethnic minority. There are other, Iran as a state, it will turn into several states of ethnic groups. The same people who believe that Palestinians deserve their own country should also believe that different ethnic groups in Iran should have their own countries. And that is one logical outcome. Just one of many. Thank you.
Guys, can I get a mic a bit later? I've been asking for like 20 minutes.
Go ahead.
After Miriam response, thank you. Oh, thank you. Can you hear me properly?
You're coming through loud and clear, Gibby.
Yeah. So if you let me answer to Randy a little bit and to Miriam as well. Unlike, I'm not trying to diss anybody. I'm just stating facts. Unlike most of the people on this team, I live in the region. I don't live in Iran per se, but I live pretty close to it, and I have a lot of people that I've helped shelter that run away from current regime. So first part of my answer is going to be about what Miriam said, and then I'll go to Randy's point. So let's go back to the Pakistan thing. There's a lot said, but there's another thing about Pakistan that is still, it's flawed, but it still is a democracy. You saw what happened to Khan when he tried to basically take over the country. They took him away. Now they have a different government. And with Iran, it's like it's more hate towards Israel because it's first of all one of the main pillars of their whole affairs, like international affairs. And another thing is that it's been funding groups that don't make sense, like Hamas, because Sunni Muslims, they hate Iranians because Iranians are Shia. They just fund them out of spite. Another thing is that, Mariam, I'm not trying to attack you as a person. I'm just saying that at first I thought you were a reformist, and I would agree with that because there's a lot of delusion going on, like, oh, let's bring Shah back and all that. This will most likely never happen, but the more I listen to you, the more sounds like IRGC stuff, which I cannot support. And I think in general, less nukes is better. And Iran's proved itself to be a bad actor. Answering to Randy, nobody will ever allow Iran to break up for two reasons. First of all, Kurdistan will never be a country, and I'm not saying that I don't place of hate for Kurds. I have a lot of Kurdish friends, and I love them and I support them. But Turkey, Iraq, Syria, all those countries will never allow Kurdistan to become a country. If it becomes a part of the country in Iran, then all the other Kurds will want to make it a separate state, which they will not let happen. Even though I love my Kurdish friends, I support them, but I don't think it is possible in the current political climate. Another thing is that none of the Western countries will allow Iran to break up or to have a violent revolution because of those kilograms of enriched uranium they have, because some bad actor may just steal it and go away with it. So that is another problem why no one will ever let you have a violent revolution in Iran or let it break up in different states. I'm done.
But respectfully, Syria is not in a position to block Kurdistan, a Kurdish country. They do not have an army. They're not going to stop a Kurdish country from being created. I'm not sure that Iraq has the resources to stop a Kurdish country from being created.
What about Turkey, though?
It's not their choice. If Iran splits into several countries, I don't see Turkey going to war and saying, no, you must stay together. I don't see how that happens.
Can I respond to something real quick here?
Yeah, of course, Miriam. Go ahead.
Baby? Yeah, thanks. Okay, so I'm going to repeat this again. When Ro asked me earlier about some of my concerns, or what would I see tomorrow if there was an opportunity for a movement and a revolution, I was explaining the nuances. I mean, right now, just in the last 5 minutes, we heard mention of separatists and Kurds and all these different groups, right? We have to be able to talk about the multiple elephants in the room if we want to have a conversation about this. So if I don't take a position on anything and I speak more analytically or, in different ways, I think probably aggravates TC and so many others, it's because it's so complex. You can't just fit it into a singular answer. And we just saw an example of that. when I was responding to Ron earlier and I was explaining the complexity of it and the different ideological and philosophical views of the different siloed groups of Iranians inside and out, when I got to the point of reformists, I said there's reformists politically and then there's reformists ideologically, philosophically. And I said literally at that point, I said that's where I fall. So I can't remember who it was. I think it was Givy who said this. That's where I fall. And I fall that way because I lived in the United States my entire life and we are a reformist system philosophically. We reform and our bills, our policies, our procedures, our narratives, from everything, we build 250 years of America based off of reform. And so that's the guiding philosophy that I personally hold. I don't fit into any boxes, so you can't fit me into any box when it comes to Iran politically. It's very hard to do, and I think that's part of the problem is because people want me to be assigned to one box, and I'm not. So I just wanted to clear that up for you, Givy,
I'm not trying to take up. I'm sorry, AJ, I'll just respond 10 seconds. I'm not trying to attack you in any way. I just said that a lot of points maybe from that direction. And I personally, I don't support reformists as an ideology. I think personally, in a perfect world, a whole regime change would be good in Iran, but I think that is the most likely direction they're heading if anything changes. Thank you. I'm sorry if I offended you.
Just real quick though, Mariam, I respect your seeking out of nuance on these topics. I don't think enough people do that. And you're right, these things are really complicated. But there are some questions where we do have to be clear-minded about, and it is a yes or no answer. Nuclear acquirement is one of those questions. When someone asks you point blank, should the IRGC acquire a nuke? And you start talking about, well, it's complicated because, Pakistan has a nuke and where is Israel's smoke for Pakistan, et cetera, et cetera. What are you saying? It's one or the other. You can't have half a nuke. So either you are comfortable with the idea of a regime like the IRGC acquiring a nuke, or you are not. There is no spectrum there. So I think that's where I struggle with. I feel like sometimes you are seeking out important nuance, but other times I feel like there's a little bit of kicking up dust in the air to overcomplicate a question that we should be more clear-minded about.
Let me chime in here.
But you missed everything I said there.
No, here, Mariam. Let me, if I could. Because
Sounded like he was listening.
Paul, I was the one that.
With all due respect, Paul, I'm gonna defer to TC. I'm gonna get Mariam to be able to respond to that direct question.
Actually, I have a suspicion that TC is going to say what I want to say.
Well, I just wanted to chime in. I don't think this is fair to Mariam. I know she has come on the stage and has been the focal point of conversation. I asked the question purely provocatively because I thought it would evoke this type of response in terms of conversation. With that being said, I have to be honest, I come from a Western perspective. You guys are coming from a Middle Eastern perspective, and I respect that. With that being said, though, Mariam, I think in terms of just like the intelligence you bring to the conversation, the detail, the respect for the complexity of the conversation, I think it demands a firm, integral response to what your position is when it comes to this current regime, IRGC. And I understand that you are trying to kind of, weigh the equities here. And that's fair. And I think coming from, learn a little bit about your history, I think that's what informs your commentary, and I can respect that as well. But I think, again, the conversation demands with somebody that have such a deep, rich understanding of the histories and the context in which this conversation is having, it demands a response. And so I just would love to give you an opportunity, if you can, even if you decide to color it with more context, nuance, and complexity, that's fine. But from your opinion, when you wake up in the morning, you face this issue, is the world better off with or without a nuclear-armed Iran under this current regime?
Yeah, okay. And we're going to get one idiot That's all right. We found the schmuck. Okay, he's gone. Miriam, look, I think it's fair. It is a fair question. I was asking a pretty direct question. It wasn't about trying to pin you into a box in the slightest. It was about, look, for me, it's a matter of trying to understand. Honestly, it's about values.
So,
I'd like to be able to understand what your values.
so when you asked me as an Israeli, if I were an Israeli, do I understand that? How did I answer that, Ro?
You said that you'd understand the concern.
Yes, and I would agree. And no, I'm going to get there.
It's a different question.
I'm going to get there.
I think it was my question was the one that was
yes,
first posed.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there so that everybody can record this and timestamp it and make sure that they listen to it very carefully. So when Rowan asked me that question, I said, I understand as an Israeli, and I would agree as an Israeli, if I was an Israeli, that I would say, yes, get that shit out of there, right? When TC asked me my position on it, I said, I had to explain some background, and I answered you, TC, didn't I say I can't just answer it really short? I have to give you some background because there is some dimension to it. But where I landed on that was, I said, given the behavior and the actions, since Iran, even amidst the JCPOA and the US backing out, I said, even though the US backed out of it, there were other nations that were involved in it that Iran had an agreement with. And Iran let it get out of hand, whether intentionally or not, and I think it was intentional. I'm going to say that right now, that they intentionally increased their enrichment production. And I said at that moment, yes, this is a problem and it is a concern, and I understand it as a concern. Enrichment leads to nuclear bomb, right? And so if I'm framing it that way, I would think intellectually that the way that it is received by others would be that statement. But I thought it was important for the conversation to add that dimension to it, because we have to understand the why. We have to be able to justify it with data points. We have to be able to explain the behavior of it and why. And as Iranians, sometimes we get caught up in the emotions of it. And we're just like, we hate the regime. Okay, it's got to go. And we know everything about the regime is shitty. Yes, I get it. I'm right there with you guys. I mean, I think Ro explained who I am and who my grandfather is. Like, my grandfather was put in prison. I have cousins that were executed. I had a cousin who had to escape. Like, I mean, I've had another cousin that was in prison for 3 years for speaking out against the regime. So I'm not saying this because I'm trying to sugarcoat what I'm saying. Hang on, AJ. I'm trying to say that when I answer you guys, if I add a little bit more context or depth to it, if you listen carefully, you will still hear my response to you.
I'm sorry, Mariam. Saying it's a concern is not a direct answer to the question. I welcome your injecting of nuance in the conversation. But again, if you actually listen carefully to what you just said, you did not answer the question directly. And that's fine. You don't have to answer the question. But I don't like pretending that you're answering and then not answering it. Saying you understand and empathize with the concern and it's a problem, that's not an answering of the question of whether or not you believe the IRGC and these mullahs should or should not be armed with a nuclear weapon. Forget about whether pretending to be an Israeli and whether you understand the concerns from a global perspective, from an objective perspective. Do you believe the IRGC should be armed with a nuke? And I'm actually not, I'm asking it rhetorically now, because the last 3 times you were asked it directly, you again just evade it and you say it's a concern. That's not an answer. I'm sorry.
So rhetorically, any nation that doesn't follow the rules of engagement should not have a nuclear weapon. And the reason why I brought up Pakistan was because if we're framing it on principle of any nation who doesn't follow the rules of being able to have one or create one, when they have an enrichment program or nuclear reactors or whatever, I'm going to say it again, AJ. Rhetorically, I don't think that any nation should have that capability. So if we're saying that, if I'm saying that, that means that if Iran checks off the boxes and is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, then Iran also should not have a nuclear weapon. Take it how you want, AJ. I am done engaging in this. If you guys don't want to listen carefully, but I'm saying that on principle, I am operating on principle as my North Star, because right now in this very emotional time, when a lot of people are upset about a lot of things, there's only one thing that can guide us and ground us to the ground, and that's principle. So on principle, no, I do not think that any nation should have that, including Iran. And I hope that finally answers your question.
I'm going to jump in here. David, hold on a second, because I've been listening for like the last hour and a half, whatever. And I'm just going to speak my opinion. No smoke with anybody. I respect most of the people on the stage. But we have a regime, right, that fully funds Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, as a Zionist, an American Jew, right? They got to be taken out just for that, because they're the shit stirrers in that region. That's my opinion. Now, as far as them having the nukes, when they come out and say the day we get the bomb is the day we use the bomb, right? I believe them because of the support they have for these terrorist organizations. I believe that they want to destroy Israel, right? But let me say this, and I was thinking about this while you guys were having this conversation. And it's not the same, but it kind of ties together in my crazy Brooklyn mind. When Abraham Lincoln engaged in the Civil War, his goal wasn't to free the slaves. His goal was to keep the Union together. If the Persian people could somehow gain their freedom through this, I say God bless them. Let them live free. Give them, and whatever may come, may come. But you know what? We know what we're dealing with right now, and what we see: the oppression, the suppression, the killing of their own people. So people can say what they want. They can ride the fence. They're smarter than everybody else. There needs to be a regime change just for peace in the world, because they support terrorist organizations.
Okay, so I've stayed up well past my bedtime, but it's been really worthwhile. I'm going to be heading off, but I wanted to say, first of all, thanks JB for allowing us to be able to entertain the idea of being able to cut with the program that you were having prior to this. It wasn't something that was pre-organised. It was really something on the fly, and I just appreciate that. A big thanks to Miriam. Please, Miriam, feel free to be able to stay around. I just want to thank you personally for I guess, look, I mean, your position is something that I find really interesting. I don't fully understand it. I'm not going to say that I disagree with it entirely, but it's something I feel like I need to be able to have, and I would love the opportunity to be able to have further discussion with you about at some point in time. Now, I guess, and say, look, you've been through so much. You've shared with me privately what's occurred. I'm really happy for you, finally coming out and sharing what your experience has been and what your history is and your family and so forth. It must be it must be a great relief for you in some way, shape, or form. In many ways, in fact. So, look, with that, I just want to say good night. Thanks so much for entertaining the conversation. Look forward to doing it again. Always a pleasure.
Hold on, guys. Listen, when Rohan leaves, this room got like maybe another 10 minutes. Let's be civil to each other. You didn't hear me speaking? I'm sorry. You didn't hear my voice? I'm sorry. You want me to get a little louder?
Maybe he didn't talk.
Okay. Hold on a second. Can I run my room? Thank you. We're going to go Navin, and then I want to go... Oh, Michaela left. Oh, Michaela, you're there. We'll go Navin, then Michaela. Go ahead.
Thank you, JB. So I'm here. I'm an Indian. A lot of problems can be solved because a lot of people can make fun of Indians easily, and, I don't take it to heart. Okay. Do not redeem all the stuff. But anyway, basically, I kind of understand where both sides are coming from. Mostly because when I follow American politics, I kind of feel like no one wants boots on the ground for this kind of war. Okay, Israel war. I think Trump is doing kind of really good by trying to raise support Israeli people by trying to dismantle the nukes or whatever. But when the Israeli people said they want to kill the leader of Iran, Trump initially said no, don't kill him, because I think he knew, like, if that happened, if a sudden regime change happened, there was going to be like a power vacuum or something like that, or because there might, like, whatever happened in the previous Middle Eastern wars, all the terrorist groups or whatever, they could have been born anew or something like that. Maybe that's why like regime change is kind of being, hesitated upon. And I think Miriam is kind of leaning on towards whatever JB and other people. I think AI was it? He wasn't here. He isn't here right now. Is kind of on that point. I mean, Miriam is on that point, but she can't say certain things or whatever. So she can't openly state it. This is what I feel. So basically, I think that quick regime change will lead to a lot of unforeseen consequences. So I think it'd be best, to like dismantle the nukes, and then let's see how the regime change goes or whatever, how the people feel about it. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Naveed. Thank you, Naveed. Michaela, are you there, Michaela?
Yeah, I just have a minute. I have an appointment coming up. I just wanted, I've been in and out, but I'd like to know if Miriam, I would think that maybe the Crown Prince is talking to the Kurds, I hope. I would think that maybe he would be forming a provisional government that would include them and maybe solve part of that problem. Miriam?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I'm going to share something I've shared in smaller circles here amongst all of you. Back when the Masa Amini movement started, the Women Life Freedom movement and all of that started, there was a coalition that was created, and it included the Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, it included the leader of a Kurdish group that everybody calls separatist group. It included Shirin Ebadi, who's a human rights lawyer. It included, Nazanin Bonyadi and a number of other people. Okay, so it included a nice knights table, if you will, of different people that represent a different faction of people, right? That was the first time in modern history, at least in the last 46 years, I would even venture to say before that even, because it was in your face, out in the public. They had a website, they had coalition meetings, they had press conferences, they had all of this stuff going on, right? And it was the first time that the diaspora, and even on the inside, you saw the movement on the inside, you saw that happen. But then because certain people that had allegiances to one party put pressure on certain people in that coalition, it broke apart, Michaela. So when that happened, a lot of people who are vocal, adamantly vocal, and despise the regime and don't have the same fears I have to speak so loudly about it, those people fell off. They were upset. They thought to themselves, hold on a second here, this really isn't going to happen. This is a joke. They've made a mockery of it, right? So the faith and the trust in that had disappeared. So your question is a really good question. But unfortunately, the trust is not there anymore because you have a lot of people that are very anti-separatist, anti-Kurd separatist. So when they hear a narrative or a faction of the population and you hear a leader talking to somebody like that, you get that. Reza Pahlavi also said in the very beginning, after the dismantling of the coalition, immediately after that, he said, I would even sit at the table with Maryam Rajavi, who's the presumed leader and the self-elected president of the MEK. He got a lot of backlash for that. Lost a lot of supporters. In fact, one of them is a really, really well-known Iranian woman here in these spaces. She said after that day, I couldn't have anything to do with him. After I saw him a part of that coalition, I couldn't have anything to do with him. This is the complexity that I was talking about when I said I have a fear that right now we're not unified enough for it to make the difference that we are expecting to see. It has nothing to do with my desire to have the regime stay or go.
Thank you, Mary. I appreciate you. Paul, how you doing, Paul?
Hey, JB. Thanks for letting me on stage. As an American, I'm just kind of taking a wide view on this from the understanding that the last time we went into a country in the Middle East with this kind of complexity, we spent almost 20 years there, and Iraq is still kind of a gigantic mess of conflicting ideological and religious and ethnic groups that are still fighting for dominance. So I really don't want us involved in Iran in any way, shape, or form. The population is almost 3 times the size of Iraq. It would be trillions of dollars if we went in there decapitating the Iranian regime is probably a no-go because they have so many bunkers. They have backups. They have, continuity of government plans the same way that the U.S. and most Western governments do. So the fact is, removing them is, unless you're willing to put the U.S. military and the Israeli Defense Forces on the ground, it's probably going to be a no-go. So, the fact is, negotiations are probably the only way you're going to get out of this. And the idea
Hey, Paul, let me ask you a question. Respectfully. Did you see when the IDF sent those beepers out? How they were able to eliminate a bunch of people with just beepers? Did you see how? Wait. Let me finish. Did you see how they saved my friend Shlomo from this app when they went in there and they rescued him and 3 other hostages? I'm sure if they want to assassinate the head of the regime over there, it wouldn't take much.
So I think they probably could. But there are layers of government they've built in there. They've been under siege for almost 50 years. These aren't stupid people. This isn't a terrorist cell like Hezbollah. This is an actual functional centralized government with tax revenue and with foreign relations. I think there's a very real difference between regime change and removing Hezbollah's leadership and going after a centralized nation state. That this is a very different thing. It was even different in Iraq. Iraq had spent 15 years under severe economic limitations. There were trade barriers. They couldn't trade oil abroad, and they'd been slowly sort of whittled away. Iran is in a very different situation. They know the terrain. They know the people. This is going to be a very, very difficult and hard campaign. If the U.S. really wants to go in and start bombing them, I think it's going to be a very different campaign than what we've been used to for the last 20 or 30 years, which is these blitzkrieg strikes. You drop bombs and you put special forces on the ground, and congratulations, we've now removed the regime. This is a very different situation. So I think the other thing that we need to keep in mind here is that I understand if I was an Israeli, I would not want them to have a bomb, but the Israelis do have a fully functioning nuclear arsenal of their own of at least 100, if not 200 nuclear weapons. We know they've open air tested in the late 70s with the South Africans down in the South Atlantic Ocean. They do have a functioning nuclear arsenal that, I think somebody brought up to Miriam, like, why don't they just go into Pakistan? If the Pakistanis ever launched a weapon at the Israelis, it wouldn't just be the Israelis launching at them. The Indians have a fully functioning arsenal of a couple of hundred warheads themselves. Pakistan would be a pile of ash at the end of that. Like, there would be no sort of wavering. Everybody would launch at them, and that would be the end of it. The Iranians barely have a delivery platform.
Paul, hold on a second. How many conflicts has Israel engaged in since October 7th?
Several.
And I'm not talking about just Gaza. I'm talking about other areas, right? How many nukes have they fired?
They haven't had to, but if the Pakistanis launched a warhead at them, that would be the equivalent of a mutually assured destruction scenario where the Israelis would have no choice other than to use the nuclear weapon in response. And the Israelis do have a functional arsenal, a very large one. Everybody knows about it. It's the worst kept secret in foreign relations.
Paul's right, but he's rude.
How am I rude exactly?
How was he rude? I thought he was very respectful. All right, so the other mods, TC, Rohan, Hope, Miriam, I'm out of here. You guys want to keep it open, you're more than welcome to. Just let me know. If not, we'll close it down. Miriam, TC.
I have to go, but thank you. TC, I sent you a message too.
Appreciate it. JB, I'm on my way out.
Okay. All right, so we're going to close the room. Guys, been a great room, great conversation. Probably open another one tonight. Everybody be well, be safe, and be nice.
He wasn't really telling everybody to move back to Africa, but he was trying to let everybody know that they have African roots.
I want to, before we go to Ron, because Ron, this is here, I want you to consider this, because in your last submission, you were talking about the IEA. Eagle Hawk says IEA chief cleans up Israel using their report, states they have no weapon program as of June 20th, 2025. IAE chief says agency's report on Iran's secret nuclear activity wasn't the cause of Israeli military offense. And he puts that link in the chat. I'm not sure if you had a chance to look at that, but the IEAE is saying, listen, don't make them the reason why we go to war, because they have not said that they are at the 60%. Go ahead with your comment.
Can I answer a statement that Fires made? Because I just want to clarify.
No, Pete, no. I got to be impeccable about my word. I said I was going to Ron. That's what I'm doing. You can get in after Ron, since nobody asked. Cool beans. And y'all gonna have to run yourselves in a minute, because I gotta do some things. I gotta also speak to my girl Mel. Hey Mel, y'all was showing out last night. Hey Dr. G. Happy Friday. Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday.
All right, go ahead, Ron. Oh my.
So I'm looking at a copy of the CIA report that Fires believes that he quoted about Israel stealing fissionable material or uranium in 1965, and it says there's no credible evidence that it was released. Now I don't know how useful this report is from the CIA.gov, but that's what it says. And in the event, basically that's it. I mean, nobody knows that Israel has any weapons. Nobody's ever seen them, and most of it's just sort of conspiracy theories. Now, it's possible that Israel may have them. I don't know, but as far as any other evidence that I've looked up on the internet, nobody says that it has it, and I don't think that anybody has a quote-unquote God-given right to just build nuclear weapons. One of the reasons why we have such restrictions on certain weapons is because they are so dangerous that they can cause cataclysmic issues in society, right? Just one nuclear bomb in the middle of anywhere can cause
And Iran has not attacked one. Well, I'll tell you where you're completely wrong here, Fires, is that the reason why these countries have been attacked is because Iran has been funding and projecting its proxies and promoting its proxies through these countries. If you take a look at all the countries that have been attacked by Israel, it is effectively those terrorist organizations that have been set up and funded by Iran. Okay, that is the only reason why Israel has had to constantly defend itself. The only reason why Israel has had to do that is because of Iran. All right? So when you talk about the idea that Iran has never attacked another country, Iran has done it in such a way that it's hidden its vicious intent from the rest of the world in the way in which it's doing exactly the same thing with its nuclear program. And for you to sit there and say, so what if it's making 60% of enrichment uranium? Well, the 60% of enrichment uranium is specifically for it to be handed over to its proxies, so its proxies can then use it to attack the rest of the world. And believe you me, it's not only Israel they want. It's the West. And they've made it very clear. And then to sit there and say that they don't want to attack anybody, they don't have any intention to attack anybody, when the Ayatollah himself turns around and says, death to America, death to Israel.
To determine other people's life and other people's project. Who are you to determine that? That's the point. Who are you?
Am I? I'll tell you who I am. I am the person who's going to protect my next of kin from somebody who says they want to take my life. That's who I am. Who are you to tell me that you want to take my life?
Can I the mods let me, I would like to respond to Ron and Pikachu. Okay, I think it's okay to respond. Ron, you mentioned about you do not know whether Israel has nuclear weapons or not. See, nobody knows, but everybody thinks, most of the analysts and experts think Israel has nuclear weapons. That's why everybody has been asking that Israel should sign the NPT and allow IAEA inspectors to inspect its sites so that it can be clear whether it has nuclear weapons or not. And here's the point. If Israel doesn't have nuclear weapons, why doesn't it allow the IAEA to do the inspections? It has nothing to fear if it doesn't have the nuclear weapons. Then as far as Pikachu, your point is concerned, here's my answer. Okay, yes, Iran has been empowering Hezbollah, Hamas and other organizations, just as Israel has been empowering Al-Qaeda and ISIS in Syria. And I think Iran did the right thing by empowering Hezbollah and Hamas because they're resistance forces. They may be terrorist organizations for you, but for me, they were fighting an occupation. Okay, and both of them, incidentally, were born in the 1980s, Hezbollah and Hamas, whereas Israel was born in 1948. Okay, so that shows that they were a product of something. What was that something? That something was oppression and occupation by Israel. Otherwise, Hezbollah and Hamas would not have been born. Okay, and I see nothing wrong in Israel, in Iran, supporting these organizations and helping them. And I would like Iran to continue to do so, just like America does it to Israel. So why should I have a problem with that? And I feel threatened. You kept saying
supporting somebody.
No, Pikachu, I didn't complete. Pikachu, I didn't complete. Please. I'm coming to that. Okay. They have. Everybody feels threatened by what Israel will do next. Okay, you're talking about they shouted death to America. Ayatollah shouted. Somebody said death to Israel. Okay, there are 24 Israeli ministers right now who are saying that every Palestinian should be annihilated. Every Palestinian, including Netanyahu, Ben Gvir, Smotrich. No, what is false? People can you can do your hasbara as much as possible.
Please don't interrupt again. Go ahead, finish up. You got 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Okay, there is Google, there is AI, there is ChatGPT. People can check what the Israeli leaders have been saying. So according to your logic, Pikachu, Palestinians, because they are being threatened with death, they have a right to annihilate Israel then. That's what you are saying.
Well, you heard it all here, folks. You heard Fayez saying, I'm in full support of Iran continuing with its death rant to America and Israel. Congratulations, Fayez.
Let me respond. I didn't say that. I said I support Iran supporting Hamas and Hezbollah.
No, that's it. You don't even have to correct yourself. We know what you said. Like, when people say stuff like that, it just lets us know how fucking off base you are with where
sure,
everybody
Sydney.
else is
First
at.
of all, don't come off your mic and tell me.
We heard what you said.
All right, listen. Y'all gotta chill back. All right, cool. Like, listen, today is the day of Sabbath. All right, for those that practice. If you don't, then that's fine, but still respect others. All this hostility is giving me anxiety, and I don't need anxiety because then that means I can't rest in my femininity, right? So you guys want me to talk soft to you? You want me to be nice and kind? I need you guys to do the same to each other, right? When you guys come off a mic and you start interrupting, that's you're not holding your water. Okay, who's that?
This is the teacher of Khomeini.
So you can have a seat.
And he's not the one.
Okay, you need to have a seat in the audience too. Thank you. Go ahead, little Ashy. I'm not going to take disrespect because I don't disrespect people. But if you disrespect me, I definitely will return in kind. Thank you. The conversation was going good. Guys, just let one another talk one at a time. And Mods, if you're there, I need your help. I need to get ready for something. Hey, Dr. Goddess, how are you? Happy Saturday. Ash, I see you flashing your mic. But there was a conversation. Okay, Sydney, I see you flashing your mic. Sweet was actually the first person that asked could he speak. So we're going to go to Sweet, Ash, Sydney. But Sydney, you just got on stage and you're starting to pick a fight. I don't know what's going on. Be nice. You got a sunshine, smiley face on there. Keep it that way. All right, Sweet. One mic on you.
Absolutely. For those of us, again, I know Robert took an issue with me saying the fact that inside America right now, wherever you live, California, LA, New York, whatever it is, you're not involved. We're not, actively like how our people over here dying. Yeah, so the point is being drawn into this war as Americans. American people, American soldiers actually now, and so many generations now have understood America's not trying to get engaged actively, personally in any foreign wars. Okay, so we can bring peace, that's one thing. But I wanted to say that because to say that when any people that recognize who is fueling who, and we're watching these individuals that can't talk, a lot of times in the clubhouse, it gets so charged because they're in the trenches and their rational abilities aren't present because they're in the trenches. And when you're in the trenches, your rational abilities are out the window. You're just trying to hurl bombs at them real quick and kill them before they kill you. So, of course, both sides we're watching want to exterminate the other. You know, and so we're watching that, but there's also the idea, which is fine in one sense. If that's what y'all want to do, that's fine. But the rest of the world that's not engaged in that at all in America, that physically the 300 million are not the ones in that. But to sign up in the military and then to be over there now, and now you lose your life. At some point you say, why did my son lose his life? What the hell? Was that the best move? To have him enlist to go over there and two other countries and histories and they can't get along? If they're going to self-destruct, what the hell is the reason that now, even though we know the details, America's back in Israel, these details do matter. But when you start talking about you're living your life on a whole other page, people have cleared the brush in America to have some elbow room. Thank God I'm in America. Cool, I can do this, I can do that. It's the best place on the planet. But now you got to go over here and lose your life. And so the details matter. Before you say, I'm going to put my life on the line, the story does matter. Even though those players that are in it are in the trenches, they can't rationalize anymore. And one side saying, hey, I'm going to defend myself. And, you know, it's to the point now where we're watching the game of who's defending themselves. It comes a point when you get to swinging and throwing blows and dropping bombs, it's hard to remember, for those that don't really know, who's really defending themselves. That's why it does matter that Iran has not actually done it. Oh, I thought you were going to hit me, so I hit you first. But you look like you're getting upset about what I'm doing to your cousin, so I'm going to come I'm going to go drop these bombs on you, and then when you retaliate, and you say, okay, and you retaliate, now you want to still play victim? It doesn't work anywhere on the planet. They were not messing with you. If they decide to build up whatever the hell they want to build up, like any other country on the planet. But what makes sense is you're saying as those that already have it, America, whoever, we get to determine whether you get to have them or not. Doesn't matter about the facts of the history. And that's what you're asking the planet to understand, I think, America, is don't care about the whole history. Don't care about the moral stance. Don't care about the right to return. Don't care about any of these well-grooved in conversations while this whole thing has been unfolding since 47 and before. Hitler is a part of this conversation because of the extermination and now secular Zionism. Zionism, that's why I like what the man said earlier, where he called it out like that's an oxymoron. You can't have it both ways. Secular, don't believe in religion, on it, but then Zionism, which is all about, hey, this is all right because of you know what has happened in history and Moses. And so you see a game being played. And so meanwhile, though, all of this is happening. So fast forward to right now, in a week or two or tomorrow, who knows when, could be after 2 weeks, we never know with Donald Trump. But the idea is if he says we're going to use these B-1 bombers and goes over there, it is on in a way where you cannot put those worms back in the bottle ever. This is a unique time on this planet. I don't know any study of history where these major countries have nuclear energy and Hiroshima was one thing, okay, good. But now a lot of different countries. That's all. Okay, let me wrap up. So, last few seconds here. So this is what we're watching. So those two may not ever agree, Iran, Israel, but the reality is us as Americans right now, we have American passports. Now Donald Trump is looking at seriously going over there and putting a lot of troops in harm's way and who knows whatever else Iran can touch and their allies if he decides we're going to do this B-1 bomber thing and blow up. What's the one with the F? the spot where they got to go down 90, whatever they got to go down pretty far to debunk the whole thing. If he decides to do that, Iran has made it very clear. Okay, we're gonna do whatever we're gonna do after that.
Ash, Sydney. Oh man, give me
I just want to say something. You, not yourself. You who live in Colorado, who live in Oregon, who live in Miami, who live Iranian people. They are part of your society, and you mix with them and you live with them. Iranian people, you never. I'm not fanatic. I hate the Khomeini regime, but this doesn't give permission. There is many things that the Israeli or the Israeli occupied force country, they dismantle our society and the system and the world system. First of all, attacking nuclear facility. This is not allowed in nowhere by nowhere. Nowhere and nowhere it's not allowed. They done genocide, starving people. They dismantle everything. I don't know. We see that they take the war. Really, I saw campaign on TikTok and everywhere that people say, Iran, just finish the show. Just do it. Just do it. Why? Because this aggressor cannot stop. See, this Benjamin Maladetto Netanyahu, to stay in power and stay out of jail, he has to stay always, continuously in fucking war. And he put United States, Iran, never we can fucking arrive to United States. They never have a problem with the United States. The truth of United States, they are in the Gulf area, in all the Gulf country, and the biggest base of United States in the Gulf, it's in Qatar. They never had a problem. Never had a problem. No.
I'm jumping after this guy.
Now we have, sorry, just a second and I will land. Now, because of Israel, we have to go in war. Guys, go in war against Iran that doesn't present any threat to United States. It's just because some fucking oligarch, they won't interrupt the communication or the trade between China and Russia arriving to Europe is to dismantle Iran. Iran learned from the lesson of Iraq. Iran saw what's happening in Iraq. Iran doesn't need a nuclear bomb. Doesn't need. All of us, we saw Iran doesn't need a nuclear bomb. Iran, with the supersonic missile, they can flat it all the cities, major cities, Israel, or we can call it in Palestine, occupied territory. But United States got pulled in this mess. I don't see any benefit for you or for anyone. Have a parent, have a children, have a cousin, live in the Gulf area, because this Gulf area and this Gulf country, they are dismembered and it's a fire. Fire. It's a real fire war. If and Israel try to pull United States inside, it's going to be messy. And there's no need for it because Iran, there is fatwa of Khamenei that he said that we are not able to build a nuclear bomb. There is nothing can change that. And this for everyone. And the United States, it was interrogation for representative of the CIA, and they declared Iran doesn't build nuclear bomb. This is 10 weeks ago. And you can search and you find we do it, this scenario, we already have seen it before in Iraq. Don't follow, don't lose yourself in this bullshit of Netanyahu. Netanyahu will drag all the world to the world end to stay in power and stay alive, doing fucking whatever you want with your money.
Land your plane.
With your money, my life.
Yeah, so, okay. All right, you landed. So, real quick, so, there you go.
Hold on. Unless you're
I get.
Unless you're a mod. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's all good what you're trying to say and what you're saying, right? Israel is definitely provoking shit, but let's not act like Iran is clean, okay? You said that Iran has never did anything to U.S. soldiers. That's bullshit. So don't come on the stage lying and giving false information. Because go all throughout Iraq, who was sponsoring shit? Who was funding them?
Could you place a link that
Let me follow up.
Iranian soldiers hanno presentato the present free for the US United States soldier in Gulf area.
Don't speak over me. So you didn't hear me say anything about Iranian soldiers. I said Iran. So don't play fucking dumb and act like the nation of Iran does not fund this shit. Okay, yeah, Israel is definitely in the wrong right now, but don't suddenly act like you're fucking a victim of that and trying to...
Give me a link, man. Give me a link. I'm not speaking about you. I said, give me a link that Iran present threat to the United States.
Let me jump in. I was in the queue. If you're done,
go ahead.
Okay. So first, I want to say, Fayaz, when I jumped in earlier, I was agreeing with you. Like, I was trying to bring, like, this fact, like, dudes, like, I just want you to know you heard it here first. Like, it's okay to chant death to America. That's, like, the stupidest, most asinine argument. I mean, like, my entire lifetime, I've been hearing conservative war hawks talk about erase Iran off the map, and that hasn't happened. And I don't know anybody personally or anybody in my extended friend groups who believe Iran should be erased off the map, but that's something that you will hear on the news. Like I said, I'm 42, my entire lifetime. If you were from somewhere else, you would think every American wants Iran erased off the map. It's absolutely not true. So making some stupid ass argument about hearing the Ayatollah say death to America, like, to me, that just doesn't make any sense. But to address what you just said real quick, Haitian, we gassed Saddam Hussein up to invade Iran in the 80s. After the revolution, we told them, we lied to them, said Iran was weak. Now's the time to pounce. We funded him, gassed him up, and sent him in there to get his ass kicked. So, like, that was what we did to them. Like, if we want to talk about who has proxies, who's funding what, like, we are the proxy kings. Like, that shit is over there because we are the original proxy. Like, we set up all the original proxies in the Middle East when we knocked over Iran in the first place for British Petroleum in the UK. Like, so we could talk about, like, who did what first and this and that. Like, okay, that's a stupid circular conversation that we could get in. What's happening right now is you have an attack from Israel on Iran's nuclear facilities, and the pretext is from Benjamin Milikowski. This nigga's name is not Netanyahu, okay? He's an Eastern European, okay? Ever since 95, damn near my whole life, as long as I can remember seeing news, they've been 2-3 months away from getting a nuke. My whole fucking life. This dude has come on the news at least 20 times over the past 35 years talking about they're 2-3 weeks away from getting a nuke. And we've already been through this. Like, we went through this in Iraq. WMDs. Do you want the smoking gun to be a mushroom cloud over New York? All this fucking rhetoric. We went through this, and I thought we'd healed from this. I mean, the Republicans are now, they consider themselves an anti-war party. If you had to ask Republicans 3 weeks ago what they thought about a war with Iran, their number one line was, like, America first, we're done fighting other people's wars. Tulsi Gabbard, 10 weeks ago, no nuclear program. The intelligence community agrees. No nuclear program whatsoever. And now here we are, like literally discussing should Iran be able to have a nuke? Like this is like an educated conversation that we're having with each other. Like, should we allow them to have a nuke? Like, come on, like, how gullible are we? Like, how stupid are we? And then when you look at Iran and how they've conducted themselves over the last 40 years, I see no more of a rational, calculated actor in the Middle East than the way Iran has acted. I mean, you would think that they couldn't even touch Israel the way after Soleimani got bombed. And back in October, when they sent over a few drones and I think they hit a military base or something. They might have landed like 10 hits in all of Israel. You would have thought they couldn't even empty out the city of Haifa like they've just done. Like they are raining hell down on Israel. These people have been acting in a calculated, very thoughtful manner. These people aren't fanatics. But let these, like that dude who's trying to get us hyped up on the Ayatollah chant, death to America, let people like him tell it. These people who have been acting like the most rational people in the Middle East, let them tell it. They get a nuke. The first thing they're doing is sending a nuclear bomb to Israel to wipe it off the map so they can enjoy mutually assured destruction and have their entire society wiped out. We're supposed to believe they're Islamic radical fundamentalists and crazy fucking nut jobs, but we don't see them acting like that. And we're supposed to go to war to prevent these radical fucking fanatics from getting a bomb because, like I said, let people tell it as soon as they get a bomb, the world is over and shit. Like, this shit makes no sense. And if anybody's awake, they'll know that this is all just bullshit propaganda designed to get your head mixed up in a blender. But all you have to do is have your fucking eyes open and have been paying attention for the last 20-some years to know this is all bullshit. Milikowski is trying to get us into his bullshit because he's got a death pension for wiping Iran off the face of the earth. That's all it is.
Yeah. Can I respond to that? No, not respond to, actually, to be honest, to add on to what Sydney said. Sydney, I agree with most of the points that you made, okay? I mean, almost all the points that you made. So here's the solution that I think should resolve all the problems. So it's whatever you say, whatever we talk about. It was Israel that attacked Iran on the 13th of this month, okay? It could have waited for 3 days for the last round of negotiations to take place from the 16th onwards, but it did not wait. Milošević had to do this war for his own survival, like you said, and he did. So what's the way forward? The way forward, in my opinion, is not more and more American sons and daughters dying for Israel. American children have died enough number of times, more than required number of times for Israel. And Americans have spent enough money for Israel. I think it needs to stop, because as long as a country, why don't other countries go to wars? That's because war costs money. And Israel doesn't have to worry about money. Israelis don't have to worry about their taxpayers going for tax money going for war. They don't have to worry about it because you Americans take care of them, take care of their wars, their bombs. So they don't have to worry about it. The day Israelis have to worry about their tax money going for war and they do not have medical aid, free education, that's the day wars started by Israel will stop.
Amen, and we need that to happen ASAP. From now going forward, any congressperson that supports Israel, I'm not voting for them. I don't give a shit.
Trump, you voted for Trump. Trump supports Israel. What are you talking about?
Odie, from now going forward, any person that supports Israel, I know. Hey, Odie, I just said from now going forward, right? From now going forward, any person, any congressman, any senator, any state, I don't care what level, supports Israel, I'm not voting for them.
Don,
I need people to be
Don,
American
hold
first.
on, Don P.
I am over it.
People told you about Trump's support for Israel. Miriam Alderson, the Jewish, you could hear that
This
most of
sounds
the
really big. Good.
most of the people that were supporting Trump were on that side, but you still voted for him. You're just a hypocrite. Don't come and tell me anything.
No, not because I'm a hypocrite. No. Because majority of MAGA voters, people who voted for this Make America Great movement, voted for Trump under the pretense that Trump was going to put America first. No, he's putting Israel first.
So
And we're done.
just a quick one. Don P, aka
Did you vote for Trump?
You voted for Trump. Don P, are you trying to be disingenuous
big
here?
ass. Leave my friend alone. What's going on?
Sorry,
Don't do that, Devon.
Well, you're not in the rules.
That was my own personal response to somebody who voted for Trump. That's it. It has nothing to do with nobody on the stage at all.
Sorry, Miss
Okay,
Ashley.
there's your friend. Okay.
It's my Cameroonian brother. I have to sympathize with you.
You'll love Dawn, Lisa.
Oh, I love Dawn?
Let me go get some parts around here.
School, my brother. School, my brother.
Oh, what are you on the stage?
Yeah, I'm Haitian. School. You know what makes me laugh is that we had this argument, me and you. Haitian was not in the room because we had this argument about Trump and Israel, and you turned a blind eye. You claimed, no, it's not going to happen. And I was listing the names of Jewish billionaires that were support. I mean, you know how much Miriam Alderson gave Trump to school? Do you know how much she gave Trump? One person. Do you know how much she gave Trump? $100 million. And she said that she wants West Bank. So please don't come here and pretend. Thank you. God bless.
Odeon, I have a question for you. Iran, the war against Iran, it's good for American people or not? One question, just simple question. Just give me answer.
It's not good for America.
The population, not for, no, I'm talking about the American population. It's good for American population.
It's not good for
Trump to go to strike.
There's no war that's good for any population. I don't know what war is good for anyone.
No, I just want to hear the answer from Odeon because it looks like people, you vote for Trump to finish the war. But basically, as how we see that there is a wing that takes Trump to war, and the MAGA, in some kind of how, they try to adapt it. But the current is too strong. We are against fucking war. So I'm asking all you, is a war, if Trump, he go in war against Iran, it's good for the American people or not? It's a simple question. I want to hear the answer.
I don't support Trump, so I don't know why you're asking me that question.
But war is good for your economy. This is the thing in that the country, United States is meaning the whole economy of the country is based on wars. So basically, when war happens outside your country, your economy runs. So technically, you guys should support this. But as a human, you guys shouldn't. So that's kind of a paradox living you guys have there.
No, Castro, United States and Israel's economy are dependent on the weapons industry. You are right. But not every country is like that. There are countries that have built their economies on things other than weapons, okay? And like, but one thing I disagree with you, just because wars happen, they do not help all the populations of United States, okay? The oligarchs, the people who control the bourses, they make money, okay? The ordinary folks do not benefit from it.
Yeah, let me say this on that. Let me say this on the response to war is good for your economy. You should support war, bro. What's good for your economy is doing justice by people and ingenuity and studying and learning and figuring out ways to be creative and look out for the people and best practices, bro. Miss me with this concept. War is good for your economy. If that ain't a devil talking, I don't know what that is. That idea, that concept, war is good for your economy because you can build more weapons than McDonnell Douglas and Boeing, and you can be hiring employees. And bro, that divisive mindset, destruction, subtraction, miss me with that, bro. What's good for your economy is doing the right thing by people. How about that? Justice. And there's plenty to go around, and there's land that's not even being utilized yet, and there's all kind of opportunities, and you can spread out. You don't have to all just be packed in one little bitty area. What's good for your economy is do the right thing, bro. I know that's a foreign concept to some people, especially looking at events over the last how many thousand years, but believe it or not, we're going to get to that point where it's going to be good for your economy not to be having people wanting to kill your ass because you're doing unjust things. That's not good for your economy, bro.
So, but statistically, they recently have asked Americans that, you know, there was a survey that they asked the Americans about the invasion to Iran, and apparently 60% of the Americans actually they agreed that you know, they should attack Iran.
Well, nobody I know got that survey. Nobody I know got that survey. So let's take into consideration. I don't know how many people were in that survey, bro. So there's 300 million people. How many people were in that survey?
I don't know, but this was from an official, you know, source actually.
Official,
okay. Anyway, if this is not if this is not the case, now here's the thing. This is what I don't get here. If this is not the case, then why does not the people of America uprise against their government?
Well, because the politics of America is very complicated, bro, and there's a lot of BS that goes on in America. Believe it.
I know it's complicated, but
I know you want a quick answer. A one-sentence answer. You know, electoral college. There's a lot we could talk about, bro, about whose voices get heard, and you know, old boy networks and secret society. There's a lot of shit we could cover, but that's a long answer, believe it or not.
So
Zamaga has been infiltrated by AIPAC.
So
it's a question for everybody in the room. Zamaga is being infiltrated by the AIPAC. Zionist.
Can you guys just like one talk at a time?
I'm trying. War is not good for your economy when it's on your grounds and you're in the middle of it. A couple of things. One, taxpayers' dollars don't go to Israel for weapons. America and Israel have some sort of negotiation where they buy weapons from America. Those are not America's taxpayers' dollars going to Israel. And two, Israel doesn't make its own weapons. It makes cybersecurity software mostly and various other software. So it's more of a software industry and not a hardware industry where America's military industrial companies are hardware companies. So I think actually a lot of countries in the Middle East are throughout the world buy weapons from America, including Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Turkey, and a few other places. So, and those get shipped on the black market and they get sent to various other places. So, I guess if you want America to stop selling weapons to Israel, they should stop.
So, just to correct the record, if we're talking about the largest recipients of aid, foreign aid in America, that is Israel, it's about $380 billion a year, right? Half of that is military alone. So it's been that way for about 30 years.
Yeah, and it's been that way because we've been invested in that. You're right. It has been that way, so we haven't tried a whole different approach yet. Certain people don't have an idea to know how to build an economy on doing the right thing. You're right. But others have a real strong understanding of that doesn't have to be that way. There's a whole lot of economy. There's a whole lot of distribution. There's a whole lot of space. There's a whole lot that could be created. And many are still holding on to that idea. So when the idea of division runs out of juice and bombing and everybody submits under this one person, when that runs out of juice and it becomes understood, they could never pull that all the way off. There's just going to be this one leader that was the most corrupt, that could run through the most, that could just kill off the other ones before they get killed off. And even though they didn't start any, even though they just post up, and going back to like my man brought out Sydney, the real lineage of who this man Netanyahu is that's usurped Israel. There's some real good people in Israel that will never get a voice because of Netanyahu. They will never get a chance, just like in America. You've got the masses. You've probably got a 1 percentile, Netanyahu in that boat, for sure, that are actually jacking this whole thing up. And when the 90 percentile, now see, you don't even get a voice if you're in Gaza or certain everyday person in Iran. What are they going to do? To just fight over there in Israel, push back on America? So this is what's going on. The world is watching people kill themselves off. And a lot of us are getting caught up in it, but really are completely not on that page. And our hands are not all bloodied up. But not like that. Shit, maybe somebody stole some cookies or something like that. But they've never been in a position to actually do this kind of shit. And those individuals should be held accountable. There's a universal government out here, United Nations and this and that, and war crimes. If you know any bit of history, you know that in the act of doing some of these war crimes, they don't get punished. But as we look back later on, you say, oh, that was some real jacked up stuff right there that they did. And that was clearly understood. So the talking points in the immediacy is one thing. But there's also the understanding that, bro, where is your end game with your devilishment? How about being a better neighbor? You teach that to your people in Israel, don't you, Netanyahu? Be a better person. Be a good neighbor. Have the coffee shop and, just show up. And you can't extend that thought beyond your borders, or you just want to extend the borders and kill off everything else so you can just spread that the way you want to spread it all over the planet Earth. The rest of the Earth has been at peace a long time, bro. Believe it or not. Even though you may not speak their language, you may not understand their history, they've been at peace and they've been doing some great stuff, Egypt and a lot of people, Ma'at and Kemet, they've been doing some great stuff before you showed up. All right, let me. I'm just wanting to throw that in the atmosphere because I hear a lot of other.
So I find this obsession with Netanyahu to be very interesting. Like, he's the only one person in the majority of the state of Israel don't like him.
Yeah, he's just some little bitty guy.
Yeah. So people protest, like the government. People protest him and his government all the time. He's probably not well liked, but he is kind of well trusted in some ways because of his stance on aspects of security, right? Previously, before October 7th. So, I mean, even in current projections, if there were elections soon or now, then he would be out of office, and it would probably be his last term since he's like 75, 76. So, but I think that people who have never been to Israel don't know anything else about the area or region, kind of this obsession or a weird obsession with some world leader they don't know anything about. It's actually quite fascinating.
Yeah, it's fascinating me too that over here in America and watching America getting drawn into something that's never been over there.
So
that's fascinating to me.
I find this argument so. I mean, I'm not to say that I think that Americans center themselves too much when it comes to Israel, but there are people that don't need to care about Israel or Iran, can just support Israel based on their own views, and there's nothing wrong. Like, the reason why Americans care so much about is the influence of Israel in America, but really, all these ideas that neighbors live in peace, it's not entirely true. Neighbors don't really live in peace. Neighbors just have deterrence. Right? Neighbors just have deterrence. If you try nonsense, you fight. I mean, the world over, people have fought wars. So this very idea that somehow, a lot of people are so invested in, listen, Iran and Israel can bomb themselves to death. I don't care. Like, I'm indifferent. Like, those people are not part of my problems. I mean, I'm American now, so maybe I should care more, but I'm not invested in Middle Eastern crisis. All this, there's some big boogeyman, there's one control running somewhere. It's not entirely true. People can bring the same information with you. Read my information, they still come to the same old conclusion if they didn't read any information at all. So my point is, all this, there's some boogie there are ongoing crises. There's Congo crisis, there's Sudan crisis, there are many crises in Nigeria. 200 people were killed and burned to death. Let me rephrase that. We're killed and burned to death. Yeah. Nobody cares.
Well,
nobody's worried.
I'm sure those over there.
We must worry about this. I just think it's just because America is involved. If not, all these this, we care about humanity. I'm sorry. It's just that people are just invested because of America is involved. If not,
well, welcome to America. Welcome to America, and enjoy the peace that's here that a lot of people have fought for. Thank you. Welcome.
So, Odie, I actually brought this up yesterday. People don't really give a shit about liberating the Iranian people from the regime, and when people come to that,
just 1 minute. Let me just say this. Yeah, I wanted to make that point.
I thought you were done.
Okay, sorry. I have an Iranian colleague. If he has views about, when I say colleagues, we work in the same office, I don't want to speak to her. So I wonder if he has views about Iran. You would think she's Jewish. She's so anti-Khomeini. She wishes the worst for him. I'm like, why? Do you support? Anyway, she has no feelings towards the government of Iran. Now, I said the government of Iran. She despises the government of Iran with a passion. Anyway, more that you can.
So I was gonna say, so here's the thing, right? Everyone knows the Iranian regime kind of sucks, but this whole notion that we're going over there to bring freedom and liberate the Iranian people is just horseshit. Why haven't we attacked earlier if that was the case? And I think when the Jews come on this app and parrot that talking point, it just reeks of bullshit. Like, no one is believing this shit, right? There are plenty of places on the planet that are under shitty regimes that we don't give a fuck about, right? So the logic doesn't make any sense to me. And the second thing I was gonna say, I put this in the chat, but apparently American B-2 bombers have left Missouri and are flying to Guam currently. So it looks like we might actually bomb the fuck out of Iran.
Yeah. So I think that Odie, hold on, let someone who hasn't spoken in 3 hours respond to Odie. I think, Odie, you're completely correct and you recognize the truth. Because you're not American, you recognize the truth. The reason why American leftists are protesting over the situation in the Middle East is specifically because of the leftist agenda. It has nothing to do with humanitarian concerns. And the proof is, in the Congo Civil War, there are two black groups killing each other. More than 1 million people, more than 1 million innocent people have been killed in Africa. Not a single Clubhouse leftist gives a shit. Not a single Clubhouse progressive. The Clubhouse progressive community is 100% in favor of white genocide, and I'll post the link. That's why they're involved in the Mideast. Because in Africa, there's no white people doing the killing. Because no white people are doing the killing, no one on Clubhouse gives a fuck about what's going on in Africa. The goal is not to prevent genocide. The goal is white hatred. I'll post a link to prove it. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll get to the rest of the world soon. Sure, I'm sure. As a planet, we'll get to the injustices that are going on. I appreciate you having such a desire to clear up Africa as well. We know the colonialization of Africa, so that's another conversation later on, the divide and conquer element. But yeah, we're trying to stay focused right now with what's going on in Iran. I'm sorry.
Let me just mention something so important. Did you know that if any country attacks the other country's nuclear facility, it would be violation against the national security resolutions. And this in kind of it's very odd that Israel was exonerated from these laws. Like, because you're not allowed to attack any nuclear facility because of the danger, like Chernobyl that had happened. So right now, Fordow, as you know, that they have plutonium enrichment sites down there. So if they attack Fordow, the alpha radiation would have emitted, and it would be a lot of danger out there. So basically, what Israel is doing is against the whole national security and the whole national United Nations laws. And it's very funny that they didn't actually condemn Israel by doing that. This is so weird. Like if it was any other country, it would have taken less than one day that country would have been attacked, or it would have been condemned. But in this case, we don't see any action from the United Nations or the Europeans or any of them. This is so crazy. So this is actually tells you that how much the world is not real, and it's crazy. It's a crazy place. It's not fair at all. So
I guess Jewish lawyers are better than your lawyers.
Sorry?
Well, we see that Israel instead dismantle all the world system, doing genocide in Gaza, starvation, killing.
No, I know that, but you know about Gaza, but you cannot physically. You cannot attack any nuclear facility in other countries. This is against all the laws that has been, all the resolutions that they had in the United Nations. But we don't see any reaction through the Israelis. This is odd. This is very bizarre.
And people act like this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
area. Is it genocide action? It's worse than attacking nuke facility, but we saw that the world and the world system doesn't have upper hand on Israel. Israel state is they basically dismantle all the law, fucking up all the system.
Yeah, so last night they bombed Natanz. So last night they bombed Natanz. Natanz is the second largest, and the dude right now told you guys the B-2 bombers they lift up and they're flying toward Garcia Island from I don't know from where from United States, and these two, I think there's 6 of them. And each one of them can carry about I don't know, a couple of these very big bunker buster bombs, and so I think they're about to invade the Fordo facility. That is the key area that Israel is.
Kazra, you're exactly right. Like we saw how the world went crazy when that shit happened in Fukushima. Like we know what happened. We know the potential disaster. We know all the potential disaster that can come from like these malfunctioning nuclear facilities. So you're exactly right. Like the attack of nuclear facilities is written into the UN chart, not written into the actual charter, but there are international laws against doing that. Nobody seems to give a fuck right now. Another thing that's super interesting is Fordow was projected to be at least 250 to 300 feet underground. The massive ordnance penetrator, the 30,000 pound bunker buster, that can only go 200 feet. So in order to reach something deeper than 200 feet with it, you have to drop multiple of them on the same spot. So you've got to drill it over and over and over again. So like just the idea of like hitting a nuclear facility on that level, and like nobody's talking about the environmental fallout, like nobody's talking about the danger that poses to the Gulf. Like the Gulf is like a low current area. It's not some like high current area. Like it's a pretty kind of stable, like lakeish, like water system. Like to bomb something on the level that Moab would the damage that those weapons would cause, the amount of fissile and radiation material that would spread throughout the environment and end up in the Gulf for who knows how long, that shit would just sit there. Like this is a massive environmental thing, that a massive environmental disaster that like people are calling for. And to me, it's just so fucking ridiculous because, like I said earlier, like we bought into this idea that these people are like radical fundamentalist retards that can't wait to die and shit. But like I said, like all you have to do is just look at how they've acted over the last 40 years. They have acted like the most rational actor in the Middle East as long as I've been alive. And like I said before, I'll just reiterate it. Before 6-7 days ago, you would have thought like Iran couldn't touch anybody. So like to me, this just adds to the amount of restraint that I feel like these people have, because they've been getting hit and they've had their airspace incurred upon. They've been getting struck randomly every year, every other year, damn near as long as I've been alive. And you would have thought that they couldn't touch anybody. And now we see them emptying out Israeli cities. Like, these people have capabilities, and they have been very rational and very calculated in the way that they have responded to any violation of their sovereignty. Furthermore, if you are just a rational actor and you look at what happens when the United States convinces you to dismantle your weapons program, look what happened to Gaddafi in Libya. He agreed to stop pursuing nuclear energy and nuclear weapons. His ass was gone not 10 years later. Like, But look at North Korea. As soon as they got a bomb, you hadn't even heard about North Korea in the news. Like, and that's the way you get people to stop fucking with you, is to get a bomb. And if there's anybody that I can see that just wants people to stop fucking with them, it's Iran. So, like, that's what you do. You get the bomb and people stop fucking with you. And the crazy thing is that these people aren't even trying to pursue a fucking bomb. Like, the whole world knows it. They've allowed inspectors in. Like, we know what they're doing. We know the capabilities of their program. Like, we know where their enrichment sites are. They don't have a weapons program. Like, we know this shit. But turn on the fucking news for a second, you hear a bunch of nuts talking about we can't afford to let them have a bomb. Somebody posted a poll where most Americans agree that Iran should not be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. Why the fuck do we think that they shouldn't be able to have a nuclear weapon? If you're not an idiot, you would just be like, anybody who doesn't want to get fucked with anymore should get a nuclear weapon. Like, that's exactly what you should be doing. But here, once again, we've got this rational actor who knows that their pursuit of this weapon will probably bring them more destruction in the short to medium term than they're willing to endure. They don't even have an active nuclear weapons program. Like, I just don't see anybody more rational right now than Iran, and I see these nuts over here in Israel literally trying to drag the world into another world war. It's just so stupid.
Again, Israel is a country of like 7 to 9 million people, and Iran is a country of like 90 million people. And
that's why they shouldn't be poking the bear. That's why they shouldn't be poking this bear.
Do you think that and Israel is currently a country that is at war on 3 other fronts with proxies that are paid for by Iran specifically? So do you think that it's just like Israel, like just wanting a forward
occupied force in lands that it's not them? And this is not me saying Israel is the land.
What are you saying?
This is not me who say it. It's the UN who say that it's what I'm saying that Israeli forces, they occupied the Palestinian land. They are not legal. You are not legal.
So the same United Nations that had a vote in 1947 and recognized Israel as a state, as well as had a vote for a Palestinian state, who did not recognize a Palestinian state, is now saying that Israel is an illegal state.
No. Don't skip. Where do you?
No. Don't skip. Latin American countries. But your country is a colonialist state, right? Your state shouldn't exist. In 1947, Israel had a vote for both the state of Israel and for the state of Palestine. The state of Israel was accepted by a majority of the states that voted in favor of it, and the state of Palestine was rejected from it, right? Unfortunately, even they rejected it themselves for whatever reason, right? So it could have been that there were 1948 borders that would have existed for a Palestinian state, and unfortunately that doesn't exist. And also they had the opportunity somewhere between also one second, I almost finished. Also between 1948 and 1967, they also had an opportunity to create a state. Why? Because the Arab countries, Egypt and Jordan, held on to the land that became the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. Those territories were in the property of our possession of Egypt and Jordan exclusively. They could have made a state out of those by simply declaring themselves as such. But they chose not to. Egypt and Jordan also decided not to declare them as such.
They decided to not become radical like we're watching Israel become. They decided to be peaceful partners. They decided to let these people be there with the behest, with the guidance, with Winston Churchill, with with the British. They allowed all of that to happen, bro. So don't make them faulty because they didn't operate in a real devilish way. Don't do that, man. That's what you're trying to do, Ron. Let me say it. If you let me talk,
Let him land, please.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, sir. I understand you're vested for whatever reason in that position that you're in. But the facts are that those people over there in 47, 48, there was definitely a pushback in general. And so what history has now taught us is they didn't all unify and say, hey, let's get rid of these bad actors. Let's go ahead. And they didn't do that, man. They gave peace a chance. They gave it the benefit of the doubt. And so here we are in 2025, man. And we're watching, like Sydney brought out, the last 6 countries, these countries that Israel is running through. The world is watching this, man. And you know what they always come back to? Well, hey, we got more power. We're able to do it. And that's been the only real position. Well, we can do it. We're worried about them. We don't want to talk to them. We don't want to do a two-state anything. We don't want to actually be good neighbors. And we're not going to respect them. That history is long and strong. And for you to continue to ignore that all the way to the point now where, again, the world has to just, all these conversations are about one thing, to stop something from happening, that if it happens, it won't be like Hiroshima. Because Japan decided, hey, throw my hands up. Hey, all right, my bad, you beat us to the punch. All right, what you want to do? Come on in here, MacArthur. That's not going to be the way this shit plays out, man. It's a different time frame, 2025. That was a whole different thing, atomic energy and so on and so forth. That was at that point. But fast forward, here we are, bro. Here we are now with this real reality of this one earth, man, behind the thoughts of Netan, well, I don't want to call him that, but Benjamin. What was his name, Sydney? Don't say it, put it in the chat. Malosky, whatever. But this one dude, man, of course he's got a lot of backing, but he's the face of it. History will say, is it just him? Is it just Trump? No, the face of this, though, we can clearly see as our life. They'll be 100 years from now. This thing will still be here some kind of way. I don't know how. I believe in that. I don't have to figure that out. But all I'm saying is they'll look back on this day, and they're going to sit here and question everybody on this stage and everything that was here. Like, there was no power to check on. It's biblical, bro. And so what I'm telling you, though, is those of us that are trying to say, hold up, man, hold the hell up, because once it goes there, unlike voting for Trump or Kamala, it's not going to matter, bro. All that's going to matter is that shit is affecting the planet, and it's in motion in ways you can't put back in the bottle. The fact that you would try to argue to promote, let's just go bomb them, let's just go get rid of them, shows who you are in history, in a historical sense. Who you are, man. You're arguing to just set it off.
Are you talking about me directly?
Hold on, relax, bro. Just slow it, then it doesn't apply to you. But just, it doesn't apply to you, bro. Thank you. And so the reality is, bro, even if, like my man Sydney said, even if you feel you've been done wrong, Israel, you should not be promoting, go bomb the hell out of them. Bro, because if you honestly think all that makes sense is, only thing that makes sense about that argument is this. Well, we don't have any peaceful future on this planet. So America, come on over here and let's shoot this one shot and all of this. And either we're going to come out victorious and run the whole planet together, me and you, Trump, or if the planet's going to be jacked up. And if either way, we don't care. It's what we're watching, bro. That's what a planet is watching. Like, we set it off and, oh, well, just a tinder box and just bam, and it's just fireworks in ways that you can't even imagine. I can't even imagine, but those that understand that. So if you're not vested in peace at all, and it's going to be your way or no way, well then yeah, come on, Trump, back us, man. You got our back, just like Winston Churchill. You got our back. We're just going to keep doing this, man. But meanwhile, the 90 percentile, probably 95 percentile of the earth is like, bro, we're not going to just sit back and watch this, and we know who the exact actors are that are pushing this. That's going to play out, bro. If any of us live to see it, I don't know. But none of us know what's going to happen tomorrow, tonight, 5 hours from now, 10 minutes from now. But Trump might decide to do it. Somebody just said the troops are being deployed or something. Somebody just mentioned something. I didn't catch it all. Doing something. But the point is, bro, once it goes to a certain point, you can't pull it back. That's the whole point, bro. And everybody's going to say it wasn't worth it. However you're trying to rationalize it, it wasn't worth it. And the causation will be, Netanyahu, you set that shit off, bro. Your fear, you're scared, oh, they're going to get this. They hadn't done anything, but you went ahead and pushed them like you pushed all them other people around you in Israel, and now you went over there and hit them, and they saying, okay, but we were trying to be real peaceful. We watched what you did to our cousins, and we didn't even come and unload our shit on you like we could have, man. But now you took that kindness for weakness, and now you over here fucking with us, going to try to do the same shit. And the world is saying, bro, it's going to be way more complicated than that.
What troops are being deployed?
Somebody has a mic, please. Somebody said 2 bombers were being deployed.
I heard troops. TROO.
Well, okay, somebody got to fly these planes. I call
Yeah,
that
I think
troops.
you misunderstood.
I just wanted to clarify, so.
Someone said B-2 bombers are going to like Guam, and then someone
Yeah,
said they might be
B-2
going
is
to
a-
JRC.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, I was just arguing that people have to actually.
That's amazing. He answered your word was the moving of the B-52 or B-2. That's amazing. That's a fucking amazing answer. You know, we do what we want. We have control of the most powerful country in the world and the most powerful army in the world. This is his answer. That's fucking shocking, man.